What's up, guys? My name is Brent. I'm one of the co-founders of ShareGrid. I'm here with the wonderfully talented cinematographer Megan Stacy. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. We're here in the beautiful recording studio called Martin Sound. It's actually available to rent on ShareGrid, and we're here to talk about how to maximize dynamic range with the ARRI Alexa Mini. We also have Kawa Anamorphics because, I mean, if you're going to do this, you might as well shoot anamorphic.
You have to.
Right? And a big thanks to Kyle Stryker for the Alexa Mini, and a huge thanks to Dean and his team at Camera Ready for the Kawa Anamorphics. So what we did is we actually have a piano behind us, and we have a pianist, and he's going to play some music, and we lit it in a way that really challenges the dynamic range of the camera. So here we go. Number one is knowing your LUT. So how do you use a LUT to your advantage?
Right, so the LUT that I use most of the time, the LUT that I kind of start off with and then alter for certain projects, is a little crunchier than the standard ARRI 709. So that is helpful with camera with high dynamic range or a contrasty scene because you're kind of protecting your blacks a little bit, right? So in post, you have a little bit of room to manipulate because I like to light pretty dark, you know?
That's smart.
Like to get in the low area.
Yeah.
So I like to use LUTs in that way to help me protect my blacks.
Very smart.
Okay, so number two is understanding your ISO. Now, every camera has a native ISO. The Alexa's happens to be 800, which is what we're shooting at. But if you change it, say you were to go to a lower ISO, 400 for example, you lose a little bit of dynamic range in the highlights, but you add a little bit in the lowlights. So that means that you're protecting your blacks just a little bit, but you're losing a little room at the top. It works the same the other way. So if you're gonna go to 1600 ISO, you lose a little bit in the shadows, but you gain a little bit in the highlights. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, I actually would think sometimes scenes like this, you could do it at 400 or 500 to protect the shadows, but you've done such a good job lighting it that 800 is fine. But yeah, scenes like this, sometimes you can do a little bit lower ISO to protect your shadows.
Yeah.
Number three, use a far side key. So in this example, we actually have our one spotlight that's just on the other side of our subject. So in our frame, he kind of will have almost like a silhouette, like a rim light around him, and that actually offers a much more dramatic look.
Yeah, it's more dramatic and it shows off the shape of the face a little bit better, a little more flattering usually. And it's even better if your subject can look a little bit into the light, that nice highlight.
There we go. We all like highlight.
Yeah. So, tip number four is using hotspots in the frame to give the appearance of richer blacks. So when I'm shooting something like this, something kind of dark, I like to put some hotspots in the frame, something that's reading pretty high, just to give the appearance of more contrast. It's just like that bright thing next to that dark thing really makes it a little bit richer.
Yeah, and you can see it in our scene. We have these tungsten lights in the background here in the recording studio part of the set. And it's really nice to see. It kind of breaks it up, adds a little depth, and it definitely enhances the overall contrast. Number five, haze can actually help reduce the overall contrast. It actually raises your blacks a little bit. So if you actually don't want things to feel so crunchy and so contrasty, using a fog machine or a hazer like what we have here can actually bring up the levels of your blacks just a little bit.
Yeah, and just be careful sometimes when you're using a hazer where you set your fill light because sometimes you can feel it lighting up the haze in certain spots. Number six, use negative fill. So a lot of times with high dynamic range cameras or something that's really sensitive like the Alexa, the key is actually to take away light instead of add light. So instead of using fill or a bounce, you put in just a piece of black fabric, duvetine or 4x floppy or whatever you have there, and it just helps create more contrast.
Yeah, I remember in the early days, I used to always think the answer was adding more light. And I remember finally learning that just taking away a little bit of light and adding some negative fill really can help enhance your overall image. And number seven, and this is maybe my favorite, I say this a lot, test your camera. Don't always rely on what the manufacturer says. Get your hands on a camera, go to a rental house, rent it, whatever you got to do, and run your own tests.
Exactly. I've done like bracketing exposure tests with a bunch of different cameras, and it's important to test the limits, you know, how far you can push the camera.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rely on the manufacturer to tell you what it is, because sometimes it's not exactly accurate.
Yep.
So yeah, I recommend test your own gear.
That's right. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope these tips were helpful. And of course, thank you, Megan, for being here. I appreciate it. So don't forget to subscribe and comment below. I love hearing all your comments. And of course,
don't forget to get out there and start creating.
Okay, good. I think we're done.
I stuck my tongue out. Is that
That's good.
stupid?
No.
I don't know why I did it.